we must turn our attention to events in the Middle East. I feel I still say that every week, but each week seems to become the situation seems to become more and more grave. You'll know an Israeli airstrike on northeast Lebanon has killed 11 people after the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah confirmed the death yesterday of multiple commanders, including their longtime leader, Hassan Nasrallah. Iran, for its part, of course they're a big backer of Hezbollah, have vowed vengeance for the death of Nasrallah, which is an event which was not necessarily expected and has shaken the Middle East. Lebanon's state news agency has said the attack early on Sunday on a village destroyed a home, killing all 11 people inside. And there is generally accepted to be a humanitarian crisis enveloping southern Lebanon. To get a sense of that, let's talk now to Ettie Higgins, UNICEF's Deputy Representative to Lebanon, joining us live now from Beirut. Ettie, thanks so much for joining us this morning. What is the humanitarian situation in southern Lebanon right now?
In fact, the humanitarian situation is absolutely catastrophic right across the country. It's not just in Beirut, or it's not just in the southern parts of the country as it was previously. Now, given the intensification of the conflict over the past 12 days, we have seen hundreds of thousands of people who have been displaced right across the country. And here in Beirut in recent days, we have seen floods of people, really a flood of humanity coming towards the city and other cities seeking safety and protection since the intensified bombardment began last Monday. Over the past 12 days alone, and the latest figures that we have is that more than 6,000 people have been injured. Many of these are children, and another 1,000 people killed. On Monday alone, we had more than 50 children that were killed on Monday. So unfortunately, many of them were not able to flee. Right now in the country, we have over 700 shelters. And in these shelters, we have many of the displaced. The shelters are actually schools that have been turned into temporary accommodation, which is entirely unsuitable for that purpose. And many of them are actually women and children who fled just with the clothes on their backs. We had evacuation orders a lot around the southern suburbs of Beirut since Friday. On Friday night, we families received calls at 2 or 3 in the morning to evacuate. So literally pulled children from their beds, and we're now still up until today. UNICEF has teams on the ground, families sleeping under benches or under bridges on the sides of streets. So extremely challenging, and they need everything from water to food to blankets and shelter, as well as mattresses, etc.
See, what do you make of the argument that we're hearing from the Israeli government, which is that Hezbollah are using families as human shields, that people are living next to Hezbollah military facilities, and that is why those areas are being targeted? What do you make of that argument?
Well, I think in my role and UNICEF's role, every child globally has rights that need to be respected, and they need to be living in a safe and protected environment. And our role as a humanitarian organization, and with the child rights mandate that we have, is to make sure that children, regardless of where they are, have what they need to survive and to thrive. So we really, this week, Robbie, what we saw was a unique opportunity in New York for the political leaders to come together and to find a political solution to this decades-long issue in the region. Because Lebanon has been hosting not just Palestinian refugees for decades, but also over 1 million Syrians are here in the country. So we are now lurching from a humanitarian crisis, given the economic meltdown in Lebanon over the past 5 years, now into a humanitarian catastrophe. So the politics of this, really a diplomatic solution is what is required, because we certainly, as UNICEF and as other non-governmental organizations here on the ground and humanitarians, we do not have the resources to be able to respond to such a catastrophic situation.
And just finally, Ettie, I was just about to ask precisely that. Are the resources on the ground anywhere near proximate to how grave the humanitarian situation is? I mean, with 1 million people displaced across Lebanon, it's hard to think what sort of resources would be necessary to be able to deal with that.
Well, just in the past 1 hour, the Prime Minister of Lebanon has said that over 1 million people have been impacted by this crisis. And this is now on top of the 1 million Syrian refugees who are already here and hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. So really, it's a humanitarian situation that has escalated so quickly we can barely keep up with it. We've already depleted most of our humanitarian stocks that we have here, and we don't have the resources to be able to mount a large-scale response for over 1 million people, given the fragility of the Lebanese context and the economy already. And it will have regional consequences if this is not immediately de-escalated.
Ettie Higgins there, UNICEF's Deputy Representative to Lebanon, joining us there live from Beirut.